Namaskar. Good evening. Sorry about that little crash. In fact, we are trying this live for the first time. Oh, little bit of glitch. Anyway, I think once we have perfected this, then we would be able to do it more frequently, and we may even be able to do it regularly. तो आज का जो टॉपिक है सावरकर द मॉडर्न योगी, इसको हम डिस्कस करेंगे बाईलिंगुअल, इंग्लिश और हिंदी दोनों में बात करेंगे हम लोग, और दैट वुड फैसिलिटेट एवरीवन. नमस्ते एवरीवन जो भी हमारे साथ जुड़ रहे हैं उन सबको नमस्कार. और जिन लोगों को थोड़ा वेट करना पड़ा उनको लिए मैं क्षमा प्रार्थी हूँ, खैर व्यक्त करता हूँ. अब आज का ये टॉपिक है सावरकर द मॉडर्न योगी. अब हम सावरकर को मॉडर्न योगी क्यों कर रहे हैं, उसके लिए सबसे पहले तो वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज़ द डेफिनेशन ऑफ योगी इन द इंडियन सिस्टम. योगी हम किसको कहते हैं? ओल्ड लिंक डिलीट करवा देता हूँ मैं, इफ़ द ओल्ड लिंक इज इंटरफेयरिंग. यस, आई हैव बीन टोल्ड दैट द ओल्ड लिंक हैज़ नाउ बीन डिलीटेड. So now we can settle down to this talk. And because there are too many questions coming, so I would request that if you really want an answer, then if you put it on super chat, then it will stay longer, then I would be able to have a look at it and then be able to reply to it. In any case, even other questions I will be looking at and trying to answer. लेकिन पहले आप मेरी बात सुन लें before throwing your questions, because I'll take about 10 minutes to say something about Veer Savarkar in the context of his being a yogi. There is no doubt that Veer Savarkar was a great revolutionary. बहुत बड़े क्रांतिकारी थे, इसमें कोई शक की बात नहीं है. मैं उनके जो जीवनी है उसके बारे में ज़्यादा चर्चा नहीं करूँगा, ज़्यादातर लोगों ने उसको पढ़ा हुआ है, जानते हैं उसके बारे में. तो जो मैं बात करने जा रहा हूँ वो ये करने जा रहा हूँ कि व्हाट वर हिज एक्शंस दैट energized the Indians and in particularly the Hindu community, and what he calls Hindutva and how he distinguishes Hindutva from what is Hinduism. For him, Hinduism is a subset of Hindutva. जिसको हिंदुइज्म कहते हैं, और आजकल लोग इसकी बाइनरी बनाते हैं, हिंदुइज्म वर्सेस हिंदुत्व करने की कोशिश करते हैं. सावरकर का स्पष्ट मत था कि हिंदुइज्म कुछ नहीं बल्कि हिंदुत्व का ही एक भाग है. और जब वो हिंदुत्व की बात करते हैं तो उनका जो कॉन्सेप्ट है दैट इज़ द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ कल्चरल नेशनलिज्म. कल्चरल नेशनलिज्म में हिज आराध्य देव जो उनकी प्रिजाइडिंग डेटी है दैट इज़ भारत माता. भारत माता ही उनके लिए ब्रह्म है, भारत माता ही उनके लिए राम है, भारत माता ही उनके लिए कृष्ण है. और ऐसी बात नहीं है कि उनको इनका ध्यान नहीं है, because he was a person who always carried Bhagavad Gita with him. और उनको जब टॉर्चर करना होता था, whenever the British wanted to torture him mentally, what they used to do was to take away Bhagavad Gita from him. लेकिन उसका भी उन्होंने उपाय और तोड़ खोज निकाला और अल्टीमेटली completely he took Bhagavad Gita to memory. उन्होंने उसको कंठस्थ कर लिया, और कंठस्थ करने के बाद में उनको फिर भगवद गीता की कॉपी उनके पास हो या न हो, दैट वाज नेवर नेसेसरी, बिकॉज ही हैड कंप्लीटली मेमोराइज्ड इट एंड ही हैड सच ए शार्प इंटेलेक्ट दैट इट वाज नॉट अ डिफिकल्ट टास्क फॉर हिम. व्हाई आई कॉल हिम अ योगी इज बिकॉज ऑल हिज कॉन्डक्ट वाज लाइक अ ट्रू कर्म योगी. We know and we understand the concept of the three yogis, the bhakti yogi, the karma yogi, the raj yogi. We have these concepts. तो इसमें से भी जो योग सबसे ज़्यादा सावरकर को डिस्क्राइब करने में जो सूट करता है दैट इज़ कर्म योग. एंड ही वॉज अ ट्रू कर्म योगी. He never had any aspirations as to where his conduct would lead him. He was committed to his work. Karmarnyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachan. That was reflected in every action of Savarkar. Otherwise, somebody who would put up with that kind of hard labor, as he was put through 10 years in Andamans, and after he was released from Andamans another 3 years in India, और उसके बाद भी he was put for 13 years confinement to a district with conditions, and adhering to those conditions he still carried out his task. And when it was not possible for him to take active part in politics because of the conditions put on him, then he actively engaged himself in social reform. He went against orthodoxies. आपको शायद पता नहीं होगा कि गांधी जी से पहले और अंबेडकर से पहले सावरकर ऐसे व्यक्ति थे जिन्होंने अछूतोद्धार का कार्यक्रम आरंभ किया था रत्नागिरी ज़िले में महाराष्ट्र के, वेयर ही वॉज पुट अप इन कन्फाइनमेंट. उनके ऊपर ये पाबंदी थी दैट ही वुड नॉट मूव आउट ऑफ रत्नागिरी डिस्ट्रिक्ट. सो दैट इज़ व्हाट ही डिड. उन्होंने एक मंदिर बनाया, पतित पावन मंदिर, रत्नागिरी ज़िले में ही. और उस पतित पावन मंदिर में उन्होंने उस समय के परिवेश में, उस समय के समाज में दलितों को न सिर्फ बराबर की जगह दी मंदिर की कमेटियों में, बल्कि उनको वहाँ पर प्रवेश दिलाया और स्वयं अपने हाथों से पंगत में उनको वो सर्व किया करते थे. He used to serve all the Dalits. He used to serve food to them, and he used to keep them at par with everybody else. He threw himself into literature, and his works were so inspiring that all the revolutionaries, including Bhagat Singh, used to come to him. In fact, the interesting part is that his first book, which created such a commotion, that book that was called First War of Independence, it is probably the only book in history that was banned even before it was published. Or ultimately, after he was released, the copy was procured somehow, and Bhagat Singh came to him, got a copy somehow, और उसके बाद that was printed and published by Bhagat Singh. And it was some kind of a Bhagavad Gita or Bible for all the revolutionaries, and especially the revolutionaries of the Hindustan Republican Army, of which Bhagat Singh was a member, Chandrasekhar Azad was a member, all these people were members. So he inspired these people through his writings, through his literature, and all this while he was under observation and he was under confinement to a district. ये सब उन्होंने किया. ये सब करते हुए बाद में 1937 में when he was finally released, he threw himself into political activity, and then he did something great which actually saved India. If he had not done that, then Indian partition would probably have been much worse. लोगों को ये जानकारी नहीं है, लेकिन one of the major reasons why India was divided was because 1939 में जो ministries elect हुई थी under the 1935 Act, the Congress ministries resigned, and that resignation created so much of a gap, and the war was on. The British needed support in the war. Jinnah utilized that opportunity. Congress quit that space completely, and Jinnah was clever enough to realize that this is the time to oblige the British, and then after the war would be over, then I would be able to take favors from them. और उसने पूरे वेस्टर्न पंजाब के और आजकल का ये जो आपके जम्मू कश्मीर का जो पार्ट जो मीरपुर का है, जिसकी वजह से बाद में दिक्कत आई जम्मू कश्मीर में इनके लोगों को, और नॉर्थ वेस्ट फ्रंटियर से यहाँ से मैसिव रिक्रूटमेंट कराया. लुकिंग एट दिस, Savarkar realized that this would create a situation that the British army would be completely Muslim dominated at the end of the war, and it would become very difficult for the patriotic forces to salvage India. उसके बाद he gave a call to Hindu youth to enlist themselves and get themselves recruited in the British army. उसके बाद भी आफ्टर द वॉर एंडेड और सारे डीमोबिलाइजेशन के बाद द सिचुएशन वाज सच दैट द ब्रिटिश आर्मी वाज 34% मुस्लिम. Dr. Ambedkar has also written about that. In fact, Dr. Ambedkar has written about it even before the 1945-46 इलेक्शन. उनकी जो 1945 में किताब आई थी, पहले उन्होंने 1942 में लिखी थी, बाद में 45 में आई थी, पाकिस्तान और द पार्टीशन ऑफ इंडिया. In that, he has made it absolutely clear that it is because of the composition of the army that it would be impossible for India to remain united. और ये चीज़ सावरकर ने 1939-1940 में रियलाइज़ कर ली थी. अब आप सोचिए वो कितना दूरदर्शी व्यक्ति था. उसकी दूरदर्शिता की वजह से आपको आधा पंजाब और आधा बंगाल मिल गया. वरना अगर ये नहीं हुआ होता और ब्रिटिश इंडियन आर्मी में 50% मुस्लिम एलिमेंट रह जाता तो आप सोच सकते हैं क्या होता. इट इज़ क्वाइट पॉसिबल दैट इंडिया वुड हैव बीन डिवाइडेड with the whole of Punjab and whole of Bengal going to Pakistan. खैर, इस बारे में मेरी एक नई किताब आने वाली है, उसमें काफ़ी डिटेल में और डिस्कस होगा. लेकिन ये मोटी मोटी बात मैंने सावरकर दी कर्मयोगी के बारे में कर दी. अब इसके बाद वी आर इन अ पोजीशन टू टेक क्वेश्चंस. अब मेरे सामने कोई ऐसे विशेष क्वेश्चन तो आ नहीं रहे हैं, ना कोई किसी ने पूछा है. आपस में कृपया गाली गलौज ना करें. ये चुप महामूर्ख जिसने भी लिखा है फाइनल मैसेंजर, मैं आपको निकाल दूंगा इसमें से यदि इस तरह की आप बात करेंगे. कृपया अपने डिस्कोर्स को सिविलाइज्ड रखें. प्लीज़ हैव सिविलाइज्ड कॉन्वर्सेशन एंड प्लीज़ आस्क मी क्वेश्चंस इफ़ यू वांट टू. Otherwise, I have already had my say. Mr. Ajay Singh Tomar, why is he demonized? Because of the mercy petitions. Those were not mercy petitions. Let's have this thing clear. They were clemency petitions. Clemency petition और mercy petition में फ़र्क होता है, क्योंकि clemency petition is the right of the prisoner. And he was merely exercising his right not only on his own behalf but on behalf of all the political prisoners. He exercised that right and ultimately he had his own reasons. उन्होंने अपनी आत्मकथा में लिखा भी है कि it is better to go out with some condition and inspire people to do few useful things rather than spend all his life behind the bars. You know, he was sentenced to 2 life imprisonments of 25 years each, and his date of release was set for 1960. So it would have been absolutely foolish for anyone to stay in prison with that kind of a back-breaking work that he was subjected to in Andamans. They were not mercy petitions. Remember this, they were clemency petitions, and clemency petitions were allowed under law. So what he did was he only exercised his legal rights. And those people who try and make fun of him, they do not realize that the people that they are lionizing, they did not put up even 1 minute of rigorous imprisonment, not 1 minute. So it's quite funny and it's quite ridiculous. I don't think anybody is asking many questions. People are making observations. If you want to ask questions, please ask, because I am ready for taking questions. Viplav Singh, is it true that he wasn't active after the release? Absolutely not. He was fully active. He was fully active within the limits of his confinement. Remember, I told you that after 1924, when he was released in 1924, he was imprisoned in 1911 in Andamans. Then 1921, he was shifted from Andamans to Indian shores. Then 1924, he was released with conditions, and the condition was that he would remain confined only to Ratnagiri district and he would not take part in political activities. So, whatever he did, he had to adhere to those conditions. Otherwise, he would have been put back into prison. So, he did his activities in a very concealed manner, in a camouflaged manner. And that was the time when every revolutionary worth his salt, they went to Ratnagiri. People used to go to Ratnagiri. He used to say that we are going to for a pilgrimage. And they used to go to pilgrimage to Ratnagiri, meet Savarkar, and come back inspired. Just 5 minutes with the Savarkar were enough to charge people. He had that kind of a magnetic personality and that kind of a sharp intellect. I told you about Bhagat Singh when I was discussing about Bhagat Singh and Hindustan Revolutionary Army. All those revolutionaries, they used to go there and take inspiration from him. And also, he wrote a lot. He wrote a lot many books. He had written his फर्स्ट वॉर ऑफ इंडिया नेवर गॉट पब्लिश्ड, और उसके बाद उन्होंने पता नहीं कितनी किताबें लिखी हैं जो सारी की सारी, उसमें एक तो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट किताब जो है जो विच एवरीबॉडी मस्ट रीड, द 6 epochs ऑफ इंडियन हिस्ट्री, द 6 ग्लोरियस epochs ऑफ इंडियन हिस्ट्री। जो आज हम कहते रहते हैं कि साहब इंडियन हिस्ट्री को डॉक्टर किया गया है, इंडियन हिस्ट्री ठीक से नहीं पढ़ाई जाती, तो जो लोग ऐसा सोचते हैं उनके लिए वो सावरकर जी की वो जो किताब है द 6 ग्लोरियस epochs ऑफ इंडियन हिस्ट्री इज़ अ मस्ट रीड। उसको बिल्कुल पढ़ना चाहिए आपको। somebody is asking Christopher Chakravarti, the relationship between Netaji and Veer Savarkar. Netaji met Savarkar in 1940, and the plot for his leaving India, actually it is said, fructified there in his conversations with Savarkar ji. And by that time, Savarkar had become active in politics. He had already started heading the Hindu Mahasabha. And definitely, as I said, everybody used to go to Savarkar to take inspiration, to learn from him, and to learn tactics from him, to learn strategy from him. That's what Subhash Bose also did. And he was inspired by him, and all his future activities were tuned to that. Rash Bihari Bose, who is a very, very famous revolutionary, and we can say that one of the main architects of the final freedom that we got, Rash Bihari Bose was in touch with him all through. Anju Rai, how was his relationship with Gandhiji? His relationship with Gandhiji was cordial. They met quite often, as a matter of fact. Gandhiji went to Ratnagiri and went to see him. But they differed openly. They always differed, and they were very candid. Like all great men, they were very candid about their differences. They did not hide their differences, and yet they were not petty to each other. They were respectful to each other. They did not hide their differences of opinion. Bhupender Singh, why he was charged for conspiracy of Gandhi's murder? Now that's $1 million question that nobody knows, and everybody knows that he was acquitted honorably. That end 1948, when the trial ended and the sentences were given, he was acquitted honorably. Somebody saying, is there truth in Lenin and Savarkar meeting? Well, not that I have heard of. And I really do not see any occasion of how Lenin and Savarkar could have met. Unless Lenin went to England sometime. Well, anyway, I plead my ignorance in this matter. Somebody is asking why he was an atheist. Now you must understand, Nastik and atheist is not the same thing. Nastik, when he says Nastik means that he does not perform the daily rituals. But that is an accepted position in Sanatan Dharma. As I said, he was a karma yogi. He was an avid disciple of the Bhagavad Gita. I say disciple because Bhagavad Gita as a persona makes disciples, and probably very few people who had as much understanding of the Bhagavad Gita that others had. He was very well schooled in Dharma Shastras. He was in regular touch with the Bharat Ratna P.V. Kane. Very few people had as much understanding of Dharma Shastra as he had. He had the true understanding of Ahimsa, and he knew that Ahimsa belongs to the Manas and Chitta. If you want to understand Ahimsa Paramo Dharma, I have another video. एक वीडियो और मैंने कर रखा है अहिंसा परमो धर्म पे, हिंदी में है. जो भी देखना चाहें वो जयपुर डायलॉग्स पे जाके देख सकते हैं. फिर उसके बाद में पूछ रहे हैं आशुतोष कासलकर, डिड ही एवर हैव एनी मीटिंग विद डॉक्टर अंबेडकर? यस, दे मेट मेनी टाइम्स. इनफैक्ट आप डॉक्टर अंबेडकर की किताब यदि पढ़ें ऑफ इंडिया, तो उन्होंने स्वयं ने जिक्र किया है इसका. और जो पोजीशन है हिंदू महासभा की और वीर सावरकर की, उसके बारे में पूरा उन्होंने डिस्कशन किया है. एंड ही हैज सेड दैट ही फाइंड्स सावरकर्स पोजीशन मच बेटर देन द कांग्रेस पोजीशन. उसके बाद उन्होंने उसका क्रिटिक भी किया है, बट दिस इज व्हाट ही मेंशन्स अबाउट सावरकर. Somebody said, sir, you mentioned the differences between dharma and karma yogi. How do you apply this in the modern context? Well, I said karma yogi. I tried to differentiate between jnana, karma and bhakti yoga. So I would not say that he was a jnana yogi in the sense of being a rishi, but he was a jnani definitely, but he used his jnana and applied to his karma. He was always a karma yogi. In fact, he was one person who did what is called a fast unto death, paroprayopavation, and it is after 26 days of fast that he left this earth, and that kind of a thing he did. And we know a lot of people who try this stunt of fast unto death. I think people would have seen some politicians doing it and making a farce of it, but he was the one who actually fasted unto death. That's why we call him a real karma yogi. So friends, we've already over the time limits set for us. So thank you very much. This has been